Mohan M. Vani. He's a scientist G, professor, NCCS Pune. He is going to talk to us on cytokines in the physiology and pathology of autoimmune diseases. He has done MBSc veterinary science surgery from Nagpur, PhD from England. His research interests are pathophysiology of bone and cartilage remodeling, stem cell biology, and regenerative medicine. He has several publications in international journals and patents. He has guided 14 PhDs so far. Currently, he is guiding 6 PhD students. He has various awards. He has received BM Birla Science Prize, DPT National Bioscience Award, FNAC Fellow, National Academy of Sciences, FNA Fellow, Indian National Science Academy, Tata Innovation Fellowship, and Commonwealth Fellowship Award. So over to Dr. Vani.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Parma Malini, for nice introduction. And I would like to thank Society of Inflammation Research for having me here. It's a very good initiative by this society, which will be useful for both students, basic scientists, medical and veterinary scientists. So yesterday I saw the combination of all the speakers from various fields. So let me share my slide. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me make the slide show. Just a minute, I'm trying to make the slide show. So, good morning to all of you. Yesterday there was very good presentation and many speakers, they have talked about, they have given the beautiful overview of immune system, cells of the immune system, immunoglobulins and the complement activation. And today morning, Swaminathan has very nicely told the basics of cytokines, their classification and function, and their clinical relevance. So my job is easy. So today I'm going to talk is the cytokines in the pathophysiology of autoimmune diseases. So I will focus on various autoimmune diseases, the role of cytokines, the current treatment being used, and what are the future possibilities of the new molecules and new drugs. So students, you have learned all this immune system and the cells of immune system and their role in different disease condition. So you know that autoimmune diseases develop when the mechanism of clonal deletion or suppression and other tolerance mechanism are perturbed for the elimination of self-reactive lymphocyte during their development in thymus or in the periphery. And this perturbation of self-tolerance mechanism results in the activation of self-reactive T and B cells and the generation of cell-mediated and humoral immune responses against self-antigen. Thus, the response of the immune system against self-antigen is called as autoimmunity. You know that the concept of autoimmunity was first predicted by Nobel laureate Paul Ehrlich at the start of the 20th century, and he described autoimmunity as horror autotoxicus. So there are several autoimmune diseases, system-specific and organ-specific. So they are a heterogeneous group of disorder in which recognition of self-antigen by lymphocyte is centrally involved in pathogenic organ damage. Autoimmune disease is a clinical syndrome caused by activation of both T cells and B cells, and in the absence of ongoing infection or other distinct cause. Autoimmune diseases, with the exception of rheumatoid arthritis and autoimmune thyroiditis, are individually rare, but together all these autoimmune diseases, they affect approximately 5 to 7% of the population globally, and they are the major causes of morbidity and mortality throughout the world. There are three autoimmune, which are classed as organ-specific autoimmune diseases, in which the immune response is directed to a particular organ antigen, which is unique to a single organ or gland. Few examples are insulin-dependent diabetes mellitus, that is called as type 1 diabetes, myasthenia gravis, which is a neuromuscular disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is called as hypothyroidism. And there are also important systemic autoimmune diseases, which is directed toward broad range of target antigens and involve number of organs and tissues. The examples of systemic autoimmune diseases are rheumatoid arthritis, systemic lupus, erythematosus, and multiple sclerosis. There are several other autoimmune diseases which I have not listed. So what are the combination of different factors triggers this autoimmunity? Nothing is known, but generally genetic and environmental factors are known to trigger the autoimmunity. Sensitivity to autoimmunity is associated with MSC genotype, generally HLA class 2 antigen, and it is also the sex specific. Like in rheumatoid arthritis, there is the involvement of HLA-DR4 and HLA-DR1 type. Insulin-dependent diabetes, type 1 diabetes, there is the involvement of HLA-DR3, HLA-DR4. There are other genetic factors are involved in other autoimmune diseases, such as systemic lupus erythematosus. There is an inherited homozygous deficiency of early proteins. Those are C1, C2, and C4 of the classical pathway of complement. Yesterday, Dr. Arvind Sahu has given a very nice presentation on complement. So I'll not go into detail the role of complement autoimmune diseases. Other genetic components involved in autoimmune diseases, PTPN22, CTLA4, STAT4. And the most important is there is a hormonal status that also affect the incidence of autoimmune diseases. So generally more than 20% female suffer from different autoimmune diseases. So the females are more sensitive to autoimmune diseases. So the autoimmunity depend on the antigen and the tissue against autoimmune responses are directed. And there are both antibody and cell-mediated immune responses in autoimmunity. And what are the changes you see during the autoimmunity? So there is a cell destruction by direct lysis. There is an accelerated clearance of autoantibody sensitized cells. Then antibody interaction with complement and particularly FC receptor are well known to induce the tissue damage. All antibodies initiate powerful inflammatory response that results in antibody dependent and direct T cell dependent cytotoxicity. In rheumatoid arthritis and other autoimmune diseases, the T cell activate macrophages and induce local inflammation. There are various T cell types play important role in autoimmune diseases. In RA, CD4 positive T cells and autoantibodies upregulate cytokine production. In type 1 diabetes, CD8 positive T cells destroy insulin producing beta cells. So there are different stages of disease process in autoimmune disorder. The first stage is initiation, where there is a local inflammatory response with the release of cytokines and the activation of T cells. This initiation stage is largely asymptomatic and usually goes unreported. The second stage of the disease pathogenesis is perpetuation. There is a continual interaction between tissue antigen presenting cells and autoantigen reactive T cells. So in this stage, there is a persistence of autoreactive lymphocytes and maintenance of inflammation. The third stage, which is very important, is late or tissue damaging stage, where cytokines and other inflammatory mediators are released by both lymphocytes and antigen presenting cells. So in the third stage, you will see that there is a production of autoantibodies, formation of immune complexes, activation of complements, cytotoxic T cells, NK cells, macrophages, and this exchange leads to extensive damage of the tissues. So most important is the third stage, where it involves the production of cytokines that specifically regulate the inflammatory response, tissue damage, and repair mechanisms. You see, in rheumatoid arthritis, the synovial fluid is rich in expression of many cytokines. So the complexity of this cytokines, it is difficult to decide which cytokines might be important in the pathogenesis of RA. However, there is an imbalance of pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory cytokines. There is an increased synthesis of TNF-alpha, IL-1, IL-6, and there are conflicting reports. The anti-inflammatory cytokines IL-10 or IL-11, they have been shown both increase and also decrease, depending on the different humans population. Also, there is a imbalance in chemokines such as CXCL13, CCL19, CCL21, and their receptors CCR5 and CCR7. In systemic lupus erythematosus, in addition to TNF-alpha, IL-6, there is a increased secretion of IL-1, IL-2, interferon gamma, soluble TNF receptor. In multiple sclerosis, there is an increased secretion of TNF-alpha, IL-1, IL-2, interferon gamma. And in Crohn's disease, there is a increase in TNF-alpha, IL-1, IL-6, and also the chemokines such as IL-18, MCP1, and RANTES, and IL-2 and interferon gamma. So if you see all the autoimmune diseases, you will see there is an increased secretion of several pro-inflammatory cytokines and decrease or no effect on the anti. As it is becoming increasingly clear that cytokines are essential for the development, maintenance, and various stages of the disease pathogenesis of autoimmunity. What is the treatment for autoimmune diseases? The goal of treatment of autoimmune diseases has been to relieve symptoms, control the autoimmune response while maintaining the body's ability to fight infections. So the treatments may vary widely and depend on the specific disease and symptoms. So the most commonly drugs used are anti-inflammatory, which are corticosteroid, then immunosuppressive drugs, such as cyclophosphamide and cyclosporine and many other drugs. Extensive research is being carried out to develop the innovative treatment, which include anti-TNF-alpha therapy against arthritis, feeding antigen orally or to trigger tolerance, antigen peptides, anti-IL-2 receptor antibodies, anti-CD4 antibodies, and there are several research is going on using different antibodies. The most important is that many of the major pro-inflammatory cytokines produced in the rheumatoid, synovium, and other autoimmune diseases are linked in a network or cascade with the TNF-alpha at apex. So therefore, the anti-TNF-alpha antibody could be a good therapeutic target. In rheumatoid arthritis, this anti-TNF-alpha therapy inhibit the production of IL-1, GM-CSF, IL-6, and IL-8. It also decreases the CRP, C-reactive proteins. So this anti-TNF-alpha antibody decreases the production and synthesis of different pro-inflammatory cytokines. Also, that has been observed in other autoimmune diseases such as Crohn's disease. This anti-TNF therapy inhibits production of IL-1, GM-CSF, IL-6, IL-8, and also reduces inflammation in the mucosal layer. Again, this therapy has been tried in other diseases such as psoriasis, spondyloarthropathy, juvenile arthritis. And also people now the combination of therapy with anti-TNF antibody and the anti-T cells therapy such as methotrexate, this combination is working is very nicely in many disorders. So what are the mechanism of anti-TNF-alpha therapy? There are 4 different mechanisms are known till date. The anti-TNF therapy works through the downregulation of expression of cytokines, which I have already mentioned, prudential cytokines. It also decreases MCP1 and VEGF in serum. It also reduces the trafficking of leukocyte into the joint. They also diminish the angiogenesis inflamed joint and restore hematological abnormalities observed in RA patients such as anemia and elevated platelets counts. Several clinical trials are going with the use of different molecules and antibodies such as anti-IL-6 antibody, then recombinant IL-10 and IL-11. Conflicting results are there with IL-10 and IL-11. So phase 3 clinical trial are still going on. Then people are also trying interferon gamma, then anti-T cell therapy, anti-CD4, anti-CD3 antibodies, and T-cell immunity agents such as cyclosporine. Also, there are several clinical trials are going using the kinases for blocking the NF-kappa B and P38 MAP kinases. So now I am going to talk about the current treatment of for rheumatoid arthritis and what are the lacunae in that. So conventional antirheumatics reduces the inflammatory synovitis and they are also painkillers. However, for protection against structural damage, you need complete abrogation of inflammation by prolonged administration of anti-TNF-alpha biologicals. However, this may lead to severe immune suppression and that may pose a threat of infection to the treated individuals. TNF deficient mice has been demonstrated to show the increased risk of bacterial infection, including TB. So thus the anti-inflammatory agents are ineffective in preventing structural damage to the bones and all the affected joints. So what do we need? What are the agents that affect both inflammatory and skeletal components of rheumatoid arthritis are important? So why skeletal components are important in rheumatoid arthritis? So in addition to the chronic inflammatory synovitis and production of autoantibodies and production of several pro-inflammatory cytokines, all this leads to joint destruction. And it is a key pathological feature of the RA. So this bone destruction in rheumatoid arthritis is mediated by osteoclasts. There is an aberrant differentiation and activation of osteoclasts, which are the multinuclear. And the bone remodeling shift more towards bone resorption than bone formation in rheumatoid arthritis and many other autoimmune diseases. So here you can see that in rheumatoid arthritis, there is a bone erosion because of the increased activity of osteoclasts, increased activity of macrophages. Macrophages differentiate into osteoclasts. And also this osteoclast synergize with different pro-inflammatory cytokines, and there is a massive activation of both cartilage. There is a massive degeneration of cartilage and the bone. If you see the histology of the synovium in rheumatoid arthritis, here you can see that in normal synovial lining, you can see that the cell layer is 1 to 3 cell layer thick, and in a RA, you can generally, those are hypertrophied with 8 to 10 cell layer thick. The primary cell population in this synovial membrane are fibroblasts and macrophages, and there is a extensive pannus formation. So there is a cytokine disequilibrium in rheumatoid arthritis, increase pro-inflammatory cytokines and decrease anti-inflammatory cytokines. In rheumatoid arthritis, there is an increased osteoclast activity. And if you see that the physiological regulation of osteoclast is done by Rankel pathway. So the Rankel, which is secreted by osteoblasts, they induce the differentiation of mononuclear monocyte macrophage into multinuclear osteoclasts. Not only Rankel, but produced by osteoblasts, but it is also secreted by the activated T lymphocytes in the arthritic joint. So here you can see the activated T lymphocyte, activated synovial fibroblasts. They also secrete rankle, and it's also synergized with several pro-inflammatory cytokines and induces the massive damage in the RA joints. So our lab is working on interleukin-3. You know that the activated T cells secrete rankle, and T cells are constantly working to fight foreign particles. So one might expect massive by T cells. So to what extent do donor immune responses affect the metabolism? So we hypothesize that not only pro-inflammatory cytokine, but T cell derived cytokines, which may have anti-inflammatory role, may regulate this osteoclast activity. So we screen the number of cytokines secreted by activated T lymphocytes, and we found that interleukin-3 has a potent anti-osteoclast inhibitory activity. And we also checked the references, and what we found that interleukin-3 expression is decreased in many musculoskeletal diseases, such as in animal model adjuvant-induced arthritis, there is a decreased expression of IL-3. Also in some human patient, RA patient, there is a decreased expression of IL-3, and also there is a decreased expression of IL-3 mRNA in osteoporotic osteoblasts. So these previous results and anti-osteoclastic activity of IL-3, we further investigate as any anti-inflammatory activity. So previously we have shown that IL-3 inhibits rankle-induced osteoclast differentiation. It also inhibits TNF-alpha induced osteoclast differentiation in presence of several pro-inflammatory cytokines. And IL-3 has another novel role that it not only inhibits osteoclast differentiation and pathological bone resorption, but it also increases the bone formation from human mesenchymal stem cells. So IL-3 has both these activity, inhibit bone loss and induces the bone formation. So with this background, we further checked whether interleukin-3 has any anti-inflammatory activity. So we use both in vitro and in vivo model of inflammatory arthritis. Here we showed that interleukin-3 inhibit TNF-alpha induced osteoclast differentiation in presence of several pro-inflammatory cytokines such as TGF beta-1, beta-3, prostaglandin E2, and IL-6. Here you can see that in presence of IL-3, there is complete inhibition of osteoclast differentiation and bone resorption. These are the inflammatory arthritis model, in vivo model. Here you can see that the pre-treatment of these mice with IL-3 significantly decreases the inflammatory arthritis, paw thickness, and edema, which was validated by histopathology of the knee joint. And there is a significant effect in the inflammation score, number of osteoclasts, and bone mineral density. And the mechanism, what we found that interleukin-3 inhibit AP1 activation induced by the TNF-alpha, and it also decreases C4 expression without showing any effect on the c-Jun. So this our results were highlighted in Nature Reviews Rheumatology, where they have shown that interleukin-3 prevent inflammatory arthritis. So we further checked, earlier we have shown in the inflammatory arthritis. So we wanted to check whether interleukin-3 also works in a animal model of human rheumatoid arthritis. And the model which we use is collagen-induced arthritis in DBA1J mice. So this particular strain of mice is sensitive to collagen-induced arthritis, and it shows most of the symptoms in one RA patients. So I'll not go into the detailed methodology. This is a well-standardized method. We also adopted in our laboratory, and we get almost 90% incidence of arthritis in these mice. So what we found that interleukin-3 prevent the collagen-induced arthritis. Here you can see that there is a significant decrease in paw thickness, the mean arthritis score, and also there is a decrease in inflammation of the soft tissue, which we evaluated by the X-rays of the soft X-rays, and again validation by the histopathology, where you can see that IL-3 prevent the damage to the cartilage and the bone. So what is the mechanism? How this interleukin-3 has anti-inflammatory and immunomodulatory properties in collagen-induced arthritis? you know that the different T cell subsets, they play important role in rheumatoid arthritis. Regulatory T cells, either they are defective in RA patients or the number is decreased, and the Th17 cells, which are the inflammatory in nature, their population is increased in RA. Also, there is an increased synthesis of Th17 derived cytokines such as IL-17, IL-21, and TNF alpha. So we further investigated her, and you know that the Treg cells, they are a potent inhibitor of osteoclast differentiation. So we checked whether what is the role of IL-3 on Treg cells. What we found that IL-3 decreases the collagen-induced arthritis by increasing the number of Treg cells, and we found that it does that through secretion of the IL-2. We also observed that IL-3 increases this FOXP3 positive regulatory cells also in CIA mice. Here you can see that IL-3 increases Treg cells in lymph node, spleen, and thymus. And most importantly, increases the anti-inflammatory cytokines such as interferon gamma, IL-2, IL-5, and IL-10, and also decreases the synthesis of pro-inflammatory cytokines such as IL-6, IL-17, TNF alpha, and IL-1. Then we further checked whether IL-3 has any effect on the Th17 cells. So first we confirmed that Th17 cells express IL-3 receptor at both gene and the protein level by different assays using flow cytometry, confocal, and Western blotting. So we confirm that Th17 cells express IL-3 receptor. And we further observe that interleukin-3 inhibit the Th17 cell differentiation and favor the development of induced Treg cells. And the effect of IL-3 was dose dependent. Again, as shown previously, we further confirmed that IL-3 decreases the Th17 population via IL-2 dependent mechanism. This we use confirm by using anti-IL-2 antibody, and also we have got IL-2 knockout mice, and you can see that the effect of IL-3 was abbreviated. So IL-3 inhibit Th17 cells and upregulate Treg cells through IL-2. Then we further checked what is the effect of IL-3 on pathogenic and non-pathogenic T cells. You know that in rheumatoid arthritis, there are two cell populations, pathogenic and non-pathogenic T cells. The pathogenic cells are induced by IL-6 and IL-1, and non-pathogenic cells are induced by TGF-beta plus IL-6. So using this model, we further observe that IL-3 decreases the number of pathogenic T cells, however, showed no effect on the non-pathogenic cells. This was also seen in vivo, where you can see that interleukin-3 significantly inhibit the pathogenic Th17 cells in spleen, lymph node, and in spleen and lymph node, we have seen that IL-3 decreases this pathogenic Th17 cells. And it also decreases pathogenic T-cell in vivo in CIA mice. And further, we found that interleukin-3 decreases MMPs, matrix metalloproteinase, and rankle. Importantly, here you can see that interleukin-3 prevent the bone destruction. Here you can see that this is the control, and here you can see that in collagen-induced arthritis, there is a massive loss of bone. And when you treat this mice with interleukin-3, here you can see that the bone loss is prevented. And here you can see that there is a decreased expression of MMP2, MMP9, and rankle at both gene and the protein level. So We have found that interleukin-3 has anti-osteoclastic, anti-inflammatory, and immunomodulatory properties and prevent collagen-induced arthritis in mice by regulating Treg and Th17 balance. So IL-3, our result shows that IL-3 has therapeutic potential in rheumatoid arthritis. We have shown in animal models. We have not gone through for the phase 1, phase 3 clinical trial. We are now checking the effect of IL-3 on some large animal model clinical cases of osteoarthritis to check whether IL-3 also has an anti-inflammatory activity in large animal models. There is a recent one paper is published last week in Nature Communication, where they have shown that interleukin-3 is a predictive marker for severity and outcome during SARS-CoV-2 infections. So you know that many anti-rheumatic drugs, people are showing that it works in COVID-19. So in this paper, they have cited our papers, which we have published in Journal of Immunology, and where we had shown that interleukin-3 upregulate Treg cells and downregulate Th17 cells. And we had also shown that IL-3 increases the plasmacytoid dendritic cells. So in this paper, they show that there is a low plasma IL-3 levels with increased severity, viral load, and mortality during SARS-CoV-2 infection. Also in this paper, they have shown that in mouse model of pulmonary HSV infection, treatment with recombinant IL-3 reduces viral load and mortality. And IL-3 increases the innate antiviral immunity by promoting the recruitment of circulating plasma dendritic cells. So these results also boost our result that interleukin-3 indeed has anti-inflammatory and immunomodulatory properties, and it might works in RA patients. And we have also done one small studies of use of mesenchymal stem cell therapy in collagen-induced arthritis. And we had injected few million cells intraoperatively in CIA mice. And those mesenchymal stem cell also decreased the arthritis score and the paw thickness and inflammation in collagen-induced arthritis. It also decreases the bone destruction induced in CIA mice. And here you can see that there is a improvement in trabecular bone markers by mesenchymal stem cells, which we also saw in interleukin-3. So what we suggest that, and IL-3 also prevent the systemic and periarticular bone loss in CIA mice. And so what we suggest that the combination of interleukin-3 and mesenchymal stem cells, which we are now trying in animal models, it can reduces the side effects, it can reduce the dose of the interleukin-3 or other anti-TNF-alpha antibody. So these are the ongoing research project in the laboratory. And finally, I would thank all my PhD students who have done this wonderful work. And currently many postdoc and PhD students are working on the different aspects. We also work on stem cell and regenerative medicine. Particularly, we are working on bone and cartilage regeneration in musculoskeletal and autoimmune diseases. So thank you very much, and I'll be happy to take the questions.
Thank you, Dr. Vani, for the very nice presentation on cytokines in various autoimmune diseases. And thanks for sharing your work on rheumatoid arthritis, especially the IL-3 one. And we look forward for the clinical use soon. Thank you. Now, this talk is open for the discussion. Any questions from the panelists? So,
IL-17, is the IL-17 antibody is helpful for the treatment of autoinflammatory diseases? IL-17.
Yeah, we have seen that IL-3, as I shown that IL-3 also decreases the secretion of IL-17. And many people are also saying, but there are conflicting results. Some people, they are showing that there is no increase in IL-17, and there are many increased synthesis of IL-17 and IL-21.
So there is a question from Dr. Kulkarni. Is there is a role of immunomodulator like levomizole in inducing remission in rheumatoid arthritis and how they act?
Which one?
So this is the question from the
Hello.
audience. Dr. Kulkarni, he has asked, is there is a role of immunomodulator like levomizole in inducing remission in rheumatoid arthritis?
No, I do not have idea about those. Maybe Dr. Chandrasekhar may be using that medicine. I don't know what is, I have no idea what is the
No, with the permission of chair, actually levomizole, we have stopped using them with reference to rheumatoid arthritis. It doesn't have such a high potential of immunomodulator compared to what we have currently. It's almost not in the list of anymore in the immune modulators. And also the mechanism we are uncertain about it. If some work on repositioning can be done, it would be most welcome.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Rajeshwari Parida. Biologics are expansive. Is it possible to provide them for so many poor patients?
Yeah, I agree.
Suffering from AIDS.
Yeah, it's very important patients. If Dr. Chandrasekhar agree with me that anti-TNF-alpha therapy, which costs almost 8 to 10 lakh rupees per year per individual. So the anti-TNF biologicals are very expensive. That is why we are many people are looking the drugs which may be less expensive. It will be easily available for all the audience. And what I suggest that a combination therapy of biologicals and anti-T cells and stem cell might work. So I don't know, these are preliminary studies. We and many other people, they have shown that mesenchymal stem cell, they have immunosuppressive, immunomodulatory properties, they have anti-inflammatory properties, and several clinical trials are going in rheumatoid arthritis patients and also in other autoimmune diseases. So I agree that at present, the anti-TNF-alpha therapy is very expensive.
Yes, thank you, sir. So I have a question for you. With the patient who's on biologics and immunosuppressive therapy, the methotrexate, we give them, and routinely we don't estimate autoantibodies in a clinical practice. So there is a way, can we estimate it? So how much it costs?
No, I'm not aware of this. Maybe again, some other clinician or Dr. Chandrasekhar will be able to tell that.
No, you mean the anti-TNF and TNF values?
No, she's
the
asking
antibody
about
estimations, sir.
No, see, with reference to antibody level and the disease pathogenesis, there is no correlation. The titers of autoantibodies never relates to the disease activity with an exception of few, except like anti-dsDNA, ANCA titers. We don't have a direct relationship or a correlation with the titers of antibody, severity of the disease, and the disease activity. So that being the case, reanalyzing the antibody titers and antibody levels in most of the scenarios are not useful as it stands currently.
Yes, we are not using it clinically, but we have seen in few papers published in the literature where they've estimated before they're changing the immunosuppressive drugs. So that's why I asked for it.
No, it's still under trial, but actually yes, we don't see a relationship because we are analyzing the autoantibodies, etc. And I think in some other scenario, I will present those data. We don't see the titer to the disease activity relationship.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Bani, for the excellent presentation. Now we'll move on to the next speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Padmavali.
Yes, sir.
So you have to stop sharing the.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing.
So I request my